Welcome to Fight the Good Fight Club, the podcast about the relentless pursuit of a life and relationships filled with purpose, love, joy, and peace. If you're ready to get real and dig deep, then you're ready for Fight the Good Fight Club.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back. I am Cynthia Cintron.
I'm Marcel Pope.
And we are going to have an interesting show today. I am on 3 hours of sleep. Marcel and I typically have some kind of go around the night before. We did not. So we're in a good mood. I'm loopy. Marcel ran. It's going to be very, very interesting.
You're always in a good mood, just for the sake of argument.
Really?
It's just that we didn't get into a heated discussion like we normally do.
I know. Well, our topic today is sort of a departure, but not. Yeah. It's going to be really interesting. So our topic today is there is no death. The Son of God is free. So this is a very interesting, deep topic. Marcel, get us started.
So just a quick backdrop again on A Course in Miracles, where this comes from. They all really kind of say the same thing because they are statements of truth. So there are two truths there. There is no death. The Son of God is free. And okay, well, what does that mean? So throughout the lesson, it talks about there is no death. But then what's confusing about this whole course is there's a statement like that. And then they proceed to tell you the forms of death. Well, if there's no death, then why are there forms of death? So, and that promotes and tries to bring to the light the truth of what goes on in our minds. That's why there is no death is a truth, but to believe in death is an illusion. So truth and illusion are the two key facets in our minds. And A Course in Miracles brings that out and shows it to you in many, many ways. So there is no death is a truth. But in naming the forms, they tell you what the illusions are. And when you live those illusions or experience those illusions, you're not being yourself.
Okay, so this is pretty deep. And for our listeners, let's break this down because it actually becomes really relatable and understandable on a day-to-day basis. Because we're not talking about death when you're gone. You know, hopefully in your, 90s or 100, full expected lifespan. We are talking about different forms of death that we actually experience on a daily basis. So let's talk about with those deaths, quote unquote.
So death has many forms. So on one, the ultimate, quote, death that most people fear, and they live in life in the fear of death. That's why the basic fears are fear of the unknown, fear of death, fear of illness, because that could lead to death, fear of old age, I'm getting closer to death, or it could be fear of loss of love, death of a relationship. All these are forms of fear. Fear of fear itself.
Fear of not being, of shame.
Yep.
So all of those things that keep you from living a peaceful, happy, joyful life on the other side are darkness, so they're death.
Yeah, and hence the other part of the lesson, the Son of God is free. That's a statement, it's a truth. But what does
that mean?
Exactly. So that's why we're here on this earth, to figure out who we are. So the Son of God is free. But when you believe in death, you're not free in your mind. So what do I mean? So you sit there and you say, I'm angry at this person. They did this to me. You harbor anger and resentment. That is a form of death because you're not coming from who you really are, which is light, love, and eternal happiness.
Well, you're not living.
You're not living, right? So you're hung up on that, and so you're not free. One of my favorite ideas that I learned a long time ago, if you have a security guard guarding a prisoner eternally, who's the prisoner? They're both trapped there, right? Because the security guard's got to watch the prisoner, and the prisoner's being watched. We have a security guard, and we have a prisoner in our mind. So that's what the constant battle is going on. We're a prisoner in our own minds. But the truth is we are free. We have chosen to be a prisoner in the form of being angry at someone, being jealous of someone, being envious of someone, attacking our bodies from the last lesson. If I defend myself, I am attacked, right? So you become a prisoner. But the truth is you are free.
Yeah.
And the other side of that, there is no death. So there's nothing to be afraid of. Because all fear really is a fear of death, the death of something. The fear of poverty is the death of any money you have. And I saw a bumper sticker, "My money talks," and all it ever says is bye-bye. But, but these are all fears. So, and in truth, and you notice how this is our, sixth podcast?
Yeah.
It's gotten lighter because when we embarked on this, I selfishly had told you, let's do that because I feel that if I share this stuff, I really want to get rid of this. So the other day I'm at a red light on O'Galley and US on A1A, and a song by Chicago came on, a really upbeat song, and all of a sudden it reminded me of the past, which is so frequent with me when I hear a song. I think of the past, and I got angry. Because I'm tired of living in the past. And that's another course in the Course in Miracles. I only see the past.
Well, when you're living in the past, your present is dead. It doesn't exist.
Exactly.
So all the joys and all the wonderful, beautiful things that can come to you now, you may completely lose sight of because...
And not even see. That's exactly
you're dark.
Right. So I thought... I am so sick of it. I don't want to see the past. I don't want to hear a song and be reminded of the past, good or bad. I want to be now. All of a sudden, I said, please, God, help me get rid of whatever I'm doing. And all of a sudden, I'm at the red light, and I saw all these birds flying. And then I noticed the shape of the clouds and the wind blowing. And I thought, for the first time, I really felt like I was consciously in the now. I've noticed the sun shining and the birds, and now when I hear a song, I'm just going to, hoping that's what will happen, is it won't remind me of the past. I will have me in the present and enjoy the song for what it is, not what it reminds me of. Because what it reminds me is, again, the past. Yeah. And then usually it triggers something from the past. And if it's sad, then you start hoping, hope that doesn't happen again. Well, hope for the future. Now you're ruining the future because you're hoping that it's not the same as the past rather than again. That's why they say that the past is a canceled check. Tomorrow is a promissory note. Today is a gift. That's why it's called the present. Yeah. It's a present. So this is a really, really, when I went through this lesson last year, of course, like most of them, I didn't really get them. So that's why I said, man, my intent last year was to finish the course, which is a goal. And I was missing the real content. I wasn't thinking about it. I'm like, okay, I got that lesson done. Wasn't really, this year I've been focused, and man, I got to tell you, it is a Course in Miracles because this course and this lesson of itself, there is no death, is a truth. But what does that mean? Like you had asked, and Son of God is free. What does that mean? So yes.
Well, I think the first time you were reading it and your goal was to get through it.
Yeah.
And this time your goal is actually to live it.
Yeah. And in fact, it tells you in the beginning of the book, it doesn't mean spend an entire day on one lesson and leave it alone. You spend a few days on whatever it is to help you understand.
At your pace.
Yeah. And the backdrop of everything is the ultimate truth is that we are eternal light, eternal beings, eternal love, eternal joy. What is messing it up?
Yeah.
Is these thoughts of, quote, death, which stem from fears, envy. Someone else looks better than you, has more than you, has a better life than you, better marriage, better kid, whatever. That's a form of envy, which is a form because you're not realizing who you are, And so it's like I've done this. I was called fat by my brothers. I remember, it's funny now. Mama, make him lose weight. It's embarrassing. But this is not spiritual, but I got my revenge later when I started running marathons and I saw them after I had trained and I'm like, who's fat now?
Spirituality 101.
Right. Oh yeah. So I've forgiven myself for thinking it. But this is really, so there's a couple of things. Okay, you want to say something?
Yeah, I did. Actually, listening to you speak, it reminds me of years ago, we were sitting on your couch and we were chatting and I've always sort of had a challenge understanding God, the idea of God. And I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about my spirituality And it's just been, sometimes you get so caught up in the rhetoric of God. And I can't remember what brought it on. I think it was one morning we woke up, you were telling me what the lesson was. And what the gist of it is, I told you that I had trouble understanding that concept, and you explained something to me that stayed with me, and it just really illuminated my theory on what God is. And you said, Cynthia, God is light. It's just everlasting. It's always light, and it's always shining. All the time, it's always shining. If you can choose to stand in the sunlight, in the light, or you can choose to stand over there in the darkness or in the shadows.
Right.
So when you are in your highest essence, when you're peaceful, when you're joyful, when you're happy, when you're illuminating and seeing that in everything around you, you're standing in the light. It's like deciding to pack a bag and go to the beach and lay on the beach.
Right.
Or you could decide to sit in the back room with all the lights off and the curtains drawn. So that was incredibly powerful for me, because what it did is that it gave me the power and the control, instead of that something's always trying to get into me or come out of me.
Yeah.
It's what my choice is. So I can choose to be in that brightness and that joy, or I could choose to be in that darkness, right?
Yes, correct. And so this idea of the separation, quote, God has deserted us, those concepts are invalid with that idea in mind. The light is always shining on us. We block it out. And so this other concept here to help emphasize is there is no death, is when we are experiencing death through those other forms that are really unrecognizable, anger, envy, or whatever. For angry, which is a form of fear and it's a form of death, actually.
Yeah, anger tends to cover up sadness and fear. Actually, anger covers up fear.
Right.
When you see a barking dog or a crazy dog that's out, a stray dog, and you go near it and it looks like it's really angry and barking at you, it's afraid.
Yeah.
It's scared you're going to hurt it, so it's protective.
Right.
And we do that when we've been hurt.
Yep.
A lot of us. Women tend to cry, and I don't mean to do this as a male-female thing, but just for context's sake, people will either tend to cry or they'll be angry. Yeah. Actually, when I get scared, I'll get angry. If I feel backed into a corner, I come out.
I can vouch for that.
Yes, I know. Sorry.
I actually like that. Because I like when you fire those Cuban missiles.
I
They're
know
awesome,
you do.
man.
It's crazy.
It's the 4th of July every time we have it.
This is me in the light. This is me in the dark. This is me in the light. This is me in the dark.
But whenever you're having that in anger or whatever, what are you looking for? Release.
Yeah.
Right? You want to be relieved of that emotion, because who wants it? That's why I have been aggravated. I'm tired of that feeling of that sadness or nostalgia that may kick in from a song from the past, and I'm missing this moment. And so that form of release is what we're looking for. So that's all in a part of our mind. It's all occurring because that sun is shining regardless of what's going on in our mind. So all those things can be deemed clouds or whatever that are blocking the light. And so that is a huge key concept. And so
I think that this is probably a really great place to go to break, because I'd like to come back and then go to examples.
Perfect.
Go to things that, because you told me some amazing stories this morning. I actually have a story about my brother's birthday and my mom and what's going on with us.
Nice.
So this is an opportunity for our listeners to really put into their day-to-day context.
Perfect.
So we good with that?
Sounds good.
All right. So we are talking about lesson 163. There is no death. The Son of God is free, and we'll be right back.
Thanks for listening. If you're enjoying this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe and tell your friends. For more tips and ways to dig deep and get real, sign up for our newsletter, read blogs, and shop our merch at fightthegoodfightclub.com.
And welcome back to Fight the Good Fight Club. You're here with Cynthia Cintron and
Marcel Pope.
I love hearing you say your name.
You're sweet.
And we are a happy couple today. We're happy all the time, but our show, it's really, I love this episode because for me, it gives me a chance to see that it's in my power to be in peace and joy and happiness. Yes. And it's also in my power to be in the back room with the curtains drawn, right? So there is no death. The Son of God is free. Yes. This is lesson 163.
Yep.
All right.
So, as we've had these, this is our 6th one. We just, what are we going to say? What are we going to do? And I never really planned for them. And this one came like a blinding light on that this should be the one for this show on Thursday night, because you wanted me to tell you what the lesson would be by Friday. So
Marcel wants to do it spur of the moment. I want to have a minute to digest it and think about it.
So I had a dream that I didn't tell you about it.
You dreamt about me?
You probably, I think it was your dog in there.
Oh, God. Okay, fine. He loves her more than me. I've made peace with him.
So I'm in this big house. It may have been my office. I'm not sure. But it was more or less empty. And I walked by one room and there was some dog pee and dog crap in there.
Oh, God. And
it was so vivid in this one room. And then the next room was really messy. And I'm I got a little fearful. And this is all in my dream. I felt fearful. Did somebody get in here? What's going on? So I go to the front door and it's open. And there's no lock on the door. And I felt a little fearful. All of a sudden, calmness came over me. There's nothing to be afraid of. And I woke up, and it dawned on me what was happening. My prayer is being answered. When we started this, I didn't know how to get rid of the stuff I had in me that's happened to me in the past. And I couldn't get rid of it. I had tried, been reading books my whole life. Success or Positive Mental Attitude, Think and Grow Rich, all these other books, but healing, all these things. Finally, I resorted to Matthew 7:7. Asking you shall receive, seeking you shall find, knocking it shall be opened to you. I thought, all right. I asked God, please take this away from me. And so when we started these shows, I said that, and that's what that dream was about. The room I was in was my mind. There's still a little bit of crap in it. It's still a little bit messy in there. But the bulk of the crap that I wanted to get rid of is gone. Bye-bye. It's not there. And I can think about the people that I could, quote, blame. But remember, we talked about we can't blame people. And forgiveness was our first show. And in my heart, I really forgave them. But it seems like the cut doesn't heal overnight, and we keep it alive and keep the wound fresh through reiterating whatever, through reiterating the pain or reliving it or finding other people that will open that wound back up, rather than get to the heart and realizing we are in control. And the good fight is fighting and knowing what the fight is. The fight is letting go of those, but also for me, asking you shall receive. And I really believe that with all my heart. And I have some proof of that. Go ahead.
Doesn't it seem like if you haven't truly forgiven, you keep having things come into your life that have the same thing over and over and over again until you get it?
Well, the truth of the matter is that's what this world consists of. All this stuff that hurts all of us until we learn how to deal with the pain and quit being a part of it. Mm-hmm. When something tragic or bad happens in this world, rather than adding fuel to the fire, what can we do? Release, forgive whoever's involved, and just don't harbor anger, resentment, forms of death. Just emanate light out of you.
Yeah.
And so that really, how else is it going to get better? Mm-hmm. It says in the Course, a healing mind is the best defense against any attack. A healing mind, healing thoughts.
In the process of
healing thoughts. Are the best, quote, defense. That's not even needed, but that is the best thing for your healing thoughts, which are love, joy, appreciation, gratitude. So along those lines of that dream, so I remember yesterday I wanted to run, and I really felt so defeated. I thought maybe I should just give up. I've been trying to get back into. I used to be able to run marathons. I've been trying to get back into it,
and running is your therapy.
Oh my gosh!
You release. You work out problems.
Yeah. And for a moment I got sad, and I thought, what am I going to do? I felt so defeated, and I thought, you know what? I'm letting it go. Here I am fighting. I'm losing it in my head. Just let it go. Well, I woke up this morning, and I thought, okay, I'm just gonna go for a run. So I started, and about not even a quarter way through the run, and this is my point about my prayer being answered. God's never spoken to me. The Holy Spirit's never said anything to me, but this is twice this has happened, and it was a statement. Not usually I go, let me think. What should I do? Well, let me think. It was a statement that was so loud. It said, cut everything in half. And that's what I heard. Cut everything in half. It wasn't a voice. It was just a thought that rang out in my mind. I didn't think it. So I thought, all right, I'm cutting my run in half. So I ran to the midpoint, made the turn, and I stopped. Because it was going to be a struggle, which is fine. To me, that's what run is about, pushing yourself. But I stopped. And so as I'm walking, literally about 5 minutes into it, I see a guy walk, and I thought, wow, he looks familiar. All of a sudden, it dawned on me who he was. As a guy that I met 20 years ago. Then I read about him in the paper, how he got his citizenship. He's probably well known, but I won't mention his name. And he kind of walked ahead of, and I got behind him, and I said his name. He turned around, and he goes, hey. I said to him, wow, the light is really shining out of you. He said, I feel so free. Don't you find that amazing? If I didn't cut my run in half, I wouldn't have seen him. He said the exact words in our lesson.
Yeah, this is
this morning, okay? And so I thought that was amazing. And I told him, I said, you probably don't remember me, but he goes, I do remember you. And I said, keep up the great work. I said, peace be to you. He goes, and same to you. He goes, and so I see the light in you, is what he said to me. So I finished walking off my run, and toward the end, I get to this sidewalk, and right in front of me is a snake. It's a grass snake. And so anyway, feel that? Just so you know.
It's a piece of wood.
That was on a snake this morning.
Okay, so for our listeners, Marcel just pulled out a piece of wood. It was touching a nasty, icky green God's creature snake. So it was hitting me. Are you hitting me with a piece of wood?
I wanted to skeeve you out.
Very strange.
Just to irritate you. So, but here's the lesson, right? This snake was squirming on the sidewalk. He could not gain traction. And I'm thinking, that's a grass snake. You belong in the grass. And I'm sitting there having these thoughts with this snake. And I thought, you poor guy, you got blamed for biting an apple. So for someone else. And I started cracking up with myself, right? And so that is the beginning of the blame. You do know that, right?
Yeah.
Eve blamed the snake. And then Adam blamed Eve.
I reject that.
And so anyway, I'm sitting here.
That was Adam. That was all backwards. That story is told by a dude. So I thought, there's the perfect lesson. This grass snake is out of the grass and he doesn't know. So I grabbed that stick and I pushed him. As soon as he hit the grass, he took off. And I said, we are like grass snakes on the sidewalk, and we don't. So now we know that we are grass snakes. We don't know that we're spiritual beings until we come here and experience what we think is death, something that we can never do, which is die. Once we experience a form of something that will never happen, which is death, we feel separated from our source of life. That can never happen. Only in some dark recess of our mind. That's an illusion. So illusion, that's what that is. The idea that we can die, the idea that we're not free. And what brings those feelings on is anger, resentment, hatred, unforgiveness. And we block the God within. The light comes out of us. It doesn't come down on us. It comes out of us. The God within is trying to shine through, but we block it with all those things. So the other thing I was thinking of is a fish. A fish doesn't know it's in water. And if you take a fish out of water, you can see it gasping for air, right? It knows it needs water, but it doesn't know probably what water is. We are of pure love and pure light in eternity, but we don't know what that is.
And so we choose to come here. And so when I go back, someone's going to go, I don't know what love is. And we're in our spiritual realm. I'm going to go, oh, really? Well, you go down there, there's some really crazy shit happens, man. So you sure? Yeah, I'm going to tell you, love is just awesome. Yeah, but what does that mean? We'll go down there.
Let me show you what it's like not to have love.
That's it. And
we'll show you the opposite of love.
And once you feel what it isn't, then you'll get a deep desire. And that's where I've reached my point in my life. I'm sick and tired of having pain, of feeling like I'm blaming someone else for something else that didn't happen in my life, blaming a person or whatever because something else outside of me would make me happy, but I don't have that happiness because that person did this.
Yeah.
All that stuff is going bye-bye. Yeah. And I'm just being the truth. I am free and I cannot die. And that's this lesson. And so that's why I think it's really, really powerful. So those examples there, we are eternal beings. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I had a similar but different experience this week, but it was very, very powerful and poignant, and sort of shined a light on this. So this week was I have a brother that I really don't get to talk to and see very often. Sure. We're close. When we see each other, we are like absolute twins. We absolutely adore each other. But he's busy with his family, and he just doesn't reach out very often, and we miss him a lot. And there's various reasons. Sure. My family's history is very colorful, as is most people's. So this week was his birthday. And in our family, I think I mentioned episode 1 and 2 that we had the Cintron reconnection tour where I reconnected with my parents after a 30-year separation. And so my mother and I were speaking on my brother's birthday. And, we know that it's his birthday. I actually sent him a text, which I do on his birthday, just to let him know I'm thinking about him and I love him. And I've always promised myself that for both of my brothers, no matter what happens in this life, no matter what happens, I have made myself a promise that my heart will always be open to them. Yes. And any time that I spend with them will be in the moment. Yes. So the times that I do see my brother, because my other brother is like, why don't you get mad at him? Why don't you, tell him how angry you are that you don't see him and that he doesn't call us? And I tell him, so the few moments that I get to spend with him, you want me to spend arguing with him and telling him how unhappy I am. Yeah. No, the moments that I spend with him are going to be those moments that I'm going to hold and cherish until the next time I see him. So, so that's what I do when I see him. So it's been a couple of years. That was kind of a form of a boundary between you and your mom, right? What you would stand for and not, right? Yeah. So what happened was that, layers. Sure. I'm talking with my mother, and she just lights up. So she's... so you chose to remain free not go into her prison. Well, you're ahead of me. Yeah. So I'm sorry. Okay, that's what happens when we're connected. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Now Cuban Missile. Hello. 3, 2, 1. Okay. It's okay. I can handle it. Killing my shine. Okay. So, so my mother calls me. We're chatting, and she said, today's your brother's birthday. And I said, yes, I know today is my brother's birthday. And she starts talking about it, and I said, yes. And then she starts, it's like this slow, it's like just dun 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 dun. And it's just coming, and it's her, and the last time I talked to him, and it just builds and builds, and you can feel the rage starting to build up in her. Yeah. And I'm sitting on my phone. This is over about 15, 20 minutes. I'm on my phone, got my earbud in. I'm like playing a card game on my phone so that's what you do to me, isn't it? Yeah, sometimes. So here's what happens in my head, and I think that this is really, really important, because on a day-to-day basis, our listeners, you can fill in the blank to whatever it is. This happens. the upsetness, the anger, the frustration, it starts to well up. So my mother starts to lay in on my brother.
Yeah.
I love my brother.
Yes.
I don't do this.
No,
I do not. I will not. And I won't let anybody do it either.
Sure.
I could talk about my mother. You can't talk about my mother kind of thing. I don't allow anybody to talk about my brothers.
Yeah.
I could be laying into them, but you can't.
Yeah.
Right? So, but my mother, now understand, let me lay a little foundation here. This is my mother's second born. This is my mother's golden child. So apparently I'm my father's, the apple of his eye, and my brother, my middle brother, is the light of my mother's eye, right? Although, my youngest brother he's the light of my eye. It's funny, but everybody knows this. Yeah. So my mother's absolutely broken and devastated that she doesn't have him. Yeah. There's been back and forth. Many years ago, when my brother was 18, he just turned 48. Yeah. He separated from my parents. We all have had our back and forth with our parents, and my parents are very sorry about everything, and they're contrite, and they're we're all doing what we're doing with our families. So my mother's devastated. Yeah. She's absolutely broken. She's 76 years old. She misses him. Yeah. It's got to be difficult for her. And she even says it, my father has me back. Yeah. And although my mother and I have a wonderful relationship now, but we're being real here. Sure. And that's part of the premise of our show. Get real. Yeah. I'm okay with that. Like, sure. I know my mother loves me, and my mother and I have a different relationship. Yeah. But that she doesn't have my brother is absolutely devastating to her. He was born sick, and that's how they attached, because she, just bonded in a really amazing way to him, right? So her rage, she's talking his wife, family, just all of this stuff is just bubbly. She's just attacking. There are daggers coming out. Wow. And my energy is coming up because that I have issue when I was a child. Sure. My mother did this regularly. So what's coming up for me is fear, those memories. Sure. This is who this woman is. Right. That's that language is in my head, right? That darkness is starting to creep in, and the venom is just boiling up, and the fear, the little girl who was afraid of my mother, is coming up. Right. The attack that I would see happen. Yeah. And she then made a comment about my brother's daughter, and I reared up like a mama bear, which I am with my brothers. And I said, you don't know what's going on. I said, listen, Mom, I know that you're in a lot of pain, that you do not know what's going on in his house. Absolutely. You don't know anything about his children. By the way, his children are amazing. Yeah. They are the best parents. They love each other. Bottom line is, she's making up all of these stories because she needs to make an excuse for why he's not connecting with her, because she's in pain. Yes. And she's just broken. Yeah. This does bring up tears because I can connect to that pain in her. Yeah. So because I feel it with him, and I didn't give birth to him, but I love him that much. So fortunately, Marcel, who is my soul mate, calls me like at the 15th minute or something. I don't know, the 10th hour. I have no idea. This just felt like it was going on forever. And I'm just getting all knotted up, and I'm just remaining silent. And I'm just saying, yes, yes, to her, because I recognize what's going on. Sure. And you call me, Mom, I'm sorry. I've got to hang up. I haven't spoken to Marcel all day. I'm so sorry, Mom. I've got to hang up. I've got to take this call. Oh, yes, Cynthia, go ahead. Take the call. Yeah. Okay, I'll talk to you later. And I hang up. Yeah. And I take your call. And I tell you what's going on. And I'm like all knotted up inside. Yeah. And, and you're like, are you okay? What's going on? And I said, well, I totally get it. Now, here's where I want listeners to really understand.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of forgiveness work with my mother. Does that mean that I'm not ever going to feel the feelings that the little girl inside of me felt? No. I am a human being.
Sure, absolutely.
Does that mean that I'm not going to get angry with my mother because she's talking about my brother?
Yeah.
No. Does that mean, that I'm going to have all these feelings and that I want to lash out and that I wanted to hang up and that I wanted to scream at the top of my lungs? You created this. This is your fault. Everything that the little girl in me, that the damage, the hurt and everything wanted to scream and yell. But I didn't. I didn't do anything other than just let it be in the moment. I got off, recognized. I mean, I'm feeling those feelings right now talking about it. The darkness, the death. This is absolute death, right? But the reality is that in the present, in this moment, my mom is in pain. I am too. It's his birthday. We love him. And we want him to be happy and in peace and joyful. And I also recognize the depth of my mother's pain. And I don't even know a third of it. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't give birth to him, as I said. So with this story and with all of these ins and outs, I think that I want our listeners to understand that the light and the darkness, right? They're always coming and going in our lives all the time. And we have the power inside of us to choose. Where are we going to stand?
And that's the good fight.
That's the good fight. And, my mother sent me a text about half an hour later. She said, Cynthia, I'm really sorry. And, I know that I'm seeing, and this is so evolved for my mom too. I'm so proud of her.
Yes.
She said, her text said, I know that I should see my glass half full. I know I have a beautiful life. I have beautiful children. I know that I want him to be happy and I want everyone to be happy. I'm so sorry, but it's really hard for me today. I texted her back, Mom, I totally... I can't imagine the depth of the hurt that you're feeling, and I love you, and it's okay. Wow. This is, I don't do the tears a lot, people. This is just, it is. I think that.
But this is, most people are going through something like this on this planet.
I know so many people in marriages that are holding on to things that happened at the beginning of the marriage, or holding on to previous marriages, or holding on to things that happened, just that baggage. And every time something that hurts comes up, they open up that bag. They go into that dark room with the drapes drawn. They open the bag and they unpack all of those horrible things, because it's so much easier to just be hurting and angry than it is to say stop.
Right.
Where do you want to be? Do you want to live? Or do you want to die?
Right.
And when you came in this morning, it's so crazy that we barely talked last night, and you came in and you were so full of joy and happiness. And I was with 2 hours of sleep, and you radiated this crazy happiness. I'm telling you, before you came over, I'm going to call Jesse and say, I can't make it. I'm exhausted. I don't have anything in me. I don't have it. I'm exhausted. And then you walked in all happy and just loving and just bouncing around. And you just shined all of this light. And I chose to live in this moment and just turn, like the flower turns to the sunlight in the morning and it opens up. I had no choice. I just turned and radiated, and we were laughing and giggling. And I'm like, I don't have any sleep. I just did whatever. And it was just, and then you started talking to me about this lesson.
And well, before that, you said, what are we going to talk about? We didn't fight last night.
Oh, my goodness.
I said it's a sign that the Course in Miracles, and that's probably going to be one of our shows, to give is to receive. So we felt that sharing this is when you have it. I wanted to share this so that I would have it. I wanted to share forgiveness so that we would have it. I wanted to share what death really is so that we wouldn't have that. Share the concept of what death isn't so that we know what life is. So all this, there's a central theme throughout that whole course. Yes.
Yeah.
So
it's pretty amazing because when we first started dating, there was you always talked about myself, in me, oneness. I'm spiritual. I'm going to leave this planet. It was all about you by yourself. And I remember saying to you, we're meant to be on this planet and meant to be in relationships.
Sure.
And you were like, and then when we were bicker, and then I remember thinking to myself, well, it's a good thing that he's all in his oneness because I can't do this whole relationship thing. Like, I can't wait for him to leave. Like, I want to be by myself because I wasn't in that space either. Yeah. And as we've evolved in our relationship, it's kind of crazy how we talk more and more about we.
Yeah, and that, but also I believe this, and you have to be independent, not codependent. I mean, you have to be interdependent, not codependent or you can be too independent, right? And be like two ships passing in the night. I mean, what kind of relationship is that? And but being interdependent, like two trees that are strong and help each other. Maybe they lean on each other from time to time, but they are firm and strong on their own. And so I'm strong so that I can be strong for you, and you're strong so you can be strong for me. But you aren't my strength, I'm not and vice versa. Yeah. What's the strength in us is the strength within, the God within, the eternal force within. That's where the life is.
Well, and in sharing that, it strengthens our bond.
Absolutely.
Because we emanate that because we're in peace and happy. Like, we really enjoy the good times together.
Exactly. So the real love is the love within you comes out of you, and you share that love with the other person. You immediately have it, then they share the love within them, and you immediately have it. So we had thought of a good T-shirt. Our relationship is not a dumping ground for your crap. Whenever someone's I was in a relationship where, quote, I had all the issues, she had none. And the focus was always on me. And I'm like this, always defending myself.
So you're doing the fight. He's doing boxing gloves.
Fight hell. I'm just trying not to get killed.
Oh, wait, no, he's a defensive. You've got the gloves in front of your face. No mas. You're like Roberto Duran. No mas.
What was really coming out, don't you abandon me because you showed up late. That's what I feel. I'm like, oh, my God, I didn't know what was happening. Yeah. So I remember distinctive. And there
wasn't any room for you. I've had that all the time. In relationships that I've had in the past, there was no room for me because it was all about them. Yeah. There was no room for me. How could I ever shine?
Yeah. And exactly. And I think really when it comes, how can the light and love come out?
How can we shine?
How can we shine if there's crap blocking it, clouds blocking it? You have to remove the clouds. And I think that's part of this big human experience is coming in this world. Clouds creep in. We don't know how to deal with them, and they stay. And so we go into relationships with someone, and they have clouds, you have clouds, and it's like, oh, my God, this relationship's gotten really cloudy. Right. And it's like all of a sudden, then you go into the next relationship. Oh, it's all the endorphins. This is great. And but the issues are there,
comes in.
Whatever they are. And they're always anger, blame, unforgiveness.
Well, people show up at your house, and then eventually they look in your medicine cabinet.
That's right. The thing is, we need to look in the mirror and open our own medicine cabinet and see what's going on with ourselves and quit projecting it and blaming anyone else for it, even if it seems so justified. I do have to make this one quick point about this idea of there is no death. So, I've lost two brothers, one tragically to murder and the other one to cancer. One wasn't even 50, the other one barely 50. But I have to be brutally honest. When I step back, both of them used to talk about dying. And in this lesson, it says, we're looking for release from death. And so, but it's all an illusion. We're in the grips, and it mentions in there this bony, awful, death-ridden, morbid hand is clutching us. That's the death, the grim reaper, and and we need release from that. And that hand is the hand of anger, the hand of revenge, the hand of envy, the hand of blame and hatred, the hand of I'm gonna die and I don't want to be here. We want release is the point. And so this is but this is how I've resolved it in a weird way. My brothers kind of got the release they were looking for. It's in a form that no one liked, but nonetheless, it was, quote, death. Death has many, many forms. So, and I realized you think about, you talk about, and live what you want. And if you want to, we're all going to, quote, die, right? We're all going to leave these bodies. We're going to go back. And this is just a shell we're in. That's why we are not a body. The Course always talks about you're not a body. It's just a heap. It's going to turn into a pile of dust one day. Don't cherish it too much. Appreciate it. Take care of it. But it's a body. So that's where I found a lot of peace with my brother's passing, whether it was murder or cancer. Doesn't matter. They were both forms of death eventually that took their lives. So, and I'm at peace with all that.
Absolutely.
And I don't blame anybody.
Absolutely. So we're going to wrap up the show today. We're going to go on break, and we're going to wrap up with some nuggets.
Oh, good, because I have a good nugget. Okay, I got a real good nugget.
Yeah, we're going to wrap up on some nuggets on what we can do today.
Absolutely.
To start practicing how to
And there are two distinct moments every single day, and we'll go over that.
All right. We'll be right back. And we are back, and we are talking about there is no death. The Son of God is free. Lesson 163 in A Course in Miracles. And we've had a lot of great conversation about the different forms of death and light and darkness. And let's talk a little bit about nuggets. What can we do today to start looking for that light?
Okay, so I have the perfect example. So everyone has a birthday, right? Yours is July 13th. When's yours, Jesse?
September 4th.
Okay, 9/4.
Yeah.
Okay, mine's...
That's my grandmother's birthday.
Oh my God.
That's why we have some day for me. Okay.
It's 9/4. Okay.
Oh my God, I love her. Okay.
So here's the idea. So I think that was a pretty in-depth lesson. We had some really good material, personal experience that I think that almost everybody can relate to. And it's always about, remember, everything we need is within us. We don't depend on anything outside of us for anything, any form of happiness, but everything we need to cope and deal is inside of us. So here's the thing. Let's say that it's 7 o'clock in the morning, and you get a phone call from someone that has the ability to possibly throw your day off, and it isn't me. It's somebody, and you know who I'm talking about. All right? So it's 7 o'clock, and it's 2 minutes. Why did you do this email? Whatever. And it catches you off guard because your mind's fresh. Well, I got good news for you.
Okay.
Because you have a birthday coming up at 7:13 a.m. So you can recompose yourself and go, you know what? I'm not going to let this ruin my life. I got a new birthday in 13 minutes. I'll just reset myself. And then if at 9 o'clock something else happens, you can go, okay, that birthday shot, I got another one coming up at 7:13 p.m. So the point is, everyone's got two birthdays every day. Ooh. Jesse has 9:04 a.m. and 9:04 p.m. I've got 5:23 a.m. and 5:23 p.m. So if nothing else, there's a mental crutch to, quote, restart your life. And one of my favorite saying, right now, this very moment, is the beginning of the rest of your life on this earth. And it's true. So what I figured was, okay, something happens, go, okay, I'll just do a reset. But after a while, you wait for that moment to come. It doesn't come soon. You thought, why am I waiting on that 7:13, that 9:04? That I can just do it now. And so there's a couple ways. So that's the whole idea of overcoming this idea. If you have thoughts of death or thoughts that you're a prisoner, you can step back and go. And everyone, I think, has felt to be a prisoner, whether it's at a job or in a marriage or in some type of relationship. You go from soulmates to cellmates. Who hasn't done that, right? So this is a good way from 2 times a day so that it doesn't drag on for weeks or months or even years.
Or maybe just to be conscious.
Be conscious.
On your birthday, twice a day, check in with yourself.
Yeah.
Are you living
Yeah.
or are you dying?
That's it. From the Shawshank Redemption. Get busy living or get busy dying.
Oh,
yeah.
That's so powerful.
So that was, and
You're so smart, honey. I love you so much.
Hey, the idea. So thank you, sweetheart. You see what you are. You gave, so you have. Aww. So now the other concept was, okay, so that was that one. And so at any given moment, we have the power of choice. And so whatever that is. And so that is the good fight. Recognize the fight. Be aware of it. And it's not even a fight. You can win. And it's a muscle, right? This muscle. The battlefield or the boxing ring or whatever it is 6 inches wide. It's here, your head, from one temple to the other. That's where all this stuff is occurring.
Yes.
It's not out there. It's not out there. It's in us. And we are projecting whatever's in us out there. So just be the light and you attract the light. So when you do that, rather than being, like I said to you that one time, I forgave the guy that killed my brother. Why can't you forgive your parent? That was so condescending. I should have just been who I was. And that was a lesson for me. I'm going to be who I am. And then whatever, if people like the light, hey, how'd you get that? And then they ask or whatever. So anyway, good point.
That's extraordinary. Another thing, you also talked about cutting your run in half.
Oh, yeah. So,
which I thought, because you created a light for yourself. So you've got the 2 birthdays, and this is the second nugget, which I thought was fabulous.
So
and my business coach does this with me also.
The bigger point in this is that I can remember back to when I was 6 years old, walking down the street, and I talked to God. I crossed my fingers, put them behind my back, and I said, I'm never going to cuss. And of course, I said, I promised God I'd never cuss. And I remember, and all of a sudden I see something on the side of the road. I picked it up. It was a T-shirt. It was a Pabst Blue Ribbon T-shirt. We were poor. I took it home. My mom washed it. I used to wear it. Tell you how little I was. It used to come down to my ankles. But isn't that so ghetto?
So cute.
That story has nothing to do with anything. But it was my first. But my point is, God has never spoken to me. Neither has the Holy Spirit or Jesus or Buddha. No spiritual entity. But this is what's happened that I was aware of. This never happened. And I mentioned it before. This is the bigger part of what you wanted me to cover. A statement popped into my mind that echoed, cut everything in half. And it was like, wow. But I instantly knew what it meant. I cut my run in half. I organized my work yesterday because of the dream. Because
you cut your workout in half, you had that wonderful experience.
Two wonderful experiences. With that man and the snake.
And you got your run.
And I got the stick that I put on your arm that touched the snake.
Ow. Okay.
and I was on time.
Why do I have to suffer when you're happy? Okay.
Yin and yang. My happiness is your sorrow.
Oh my God. Thank you. But you know what? My business coach talks about this concept as well. You create those bite sizes that you can accomplish and feel good, so you can see your light at any given moment. How do you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time.
That's right. Create those bites. So when I'm talking to her, and I'll tell her, so I do this. I don't have time. There's so many things I have to do. I'm not going to finish. I don't have time to do 3 things. And she immediately says to me, okay, Cynthia, stop. How many things do you have to do? 10. All right. Well, do you think you might be able to accomplish 2 or 5?
Yeah.
Do you think you could do 5?
Yeah.
I think I might be able to do 5. Well, then can you do 2?
Yeah.
And when it breaks down like that, and I accomplish those 2 things,
little successes,
I feel amazing.
It builds on, yeah.
So the same thing with you. When you cut your run in half, you felt amazing.
I did. Because I'm always pushing myself. You know what? I thought, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to get things done, but internally, I'm always pushing myself. And what I really think the driving force behind that was all the repressed feelings I had of anger, blame. I really believe that was my outlet. And now that the outlet's dissipating, all of a sudden, all these other things are coming about. Pushing, focus on this. Meanwhile, I'm missing so much more life that has to offer.
Yeah.
And because I'm pushing toward this, whatever it is, And so even in I've got 58 things to do in my office. I thought, you know what, I'll just shoot for 5 tomorrow. If I get it 12 days and whatever else comes in, whatever. Yeah. But I'm always doing my best, but I'm reducing the stress. Always do your best, reduce the stress.
Yeah.
So,
well, the same thing with relationships, right? I mean, people will walk around and say, oh, my marriage is miserable, or this friendship is always causing me grief.
Right.
I think the nugget here in this one is maybe in the morning or maybe on your birthday, right before your birthday.
That's right. Get two a day.
Sit down and think about, what can I do to make this situation that is causing me constant stress and grief this much better today? Just one or two things that will bring light into the darkness or pull you or take you out of that dark room into the sunlight for 2 minutes. Sit in the sunlight for 5 minutes. Then you can always go back. That dark room is there all the time.
No one's going to steal it from you.
No one's going to steal it. That misery will be there all the time. It'll be there 24/7 if you want it. But think about maybe taking 5 or 10 minutes at maybe 5 minutes on your morning birthday, 5 minutes on your evening birthday, or maybe 10 minutes on your morning birthday to pick 1 or 2 things that you could be grateful for, that you could create light for yourself, for someone else. Just shine.
Exactly.
Just shine.
And, I think it was Benjamin Franklin said most people are dead from the neck up and just waiting.
If you enjoy our podcast, we invite you to subscribe to Fight the Good Fight Club on YouTube. Hit the notification button and give us a thumbs up. Also, head over to fightthegoodfightclub.com and sign up for the newsletter, read blogs, and more. Thanks for listening.